Hello, my name is Naomi Richardson, and welcome to another episode of the Power of Girlhood's YouTube series. Before we get started, I wanted to acknowledge our sponsors Lawrence Technical University, Inside Out Literary Arts, Black Girl Magic, AFS Student Travel Abroad, Life on Purpose, Popsy Digital Marketing, Indigo Women, and Fair Ventures. Today on this episode, I will be interviewing Savata Monroe, Bagley, and Alka Srivastava to talk about their influential leadership roles in the business world as women of color and leaders also in their own communities and how they continue to promote wellness and security. If you ladies would love to introduce yourselves, go right ahead.
I can go first. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. So my name's Ebony Bagley. I am the Communications Director for the American Heart Association covering Southeastern Michigan. I'm also an Oakland County Parks and Recreation Commissioner. And I also have my own business, which is the Ebony Heritage Collection, which specializes in educational decor, celebrating Black culture and experiences. Thank you. Happy to be here.
I can go next. My name is Savita Monroe. I am actually an entrepreneur. I own a spa with my sister-in-law, so we're partners in the beauty space. And I also run a nonprofit called DIWA, Detroit Indian Women's Association. I'm also Elite Michigan North America. I entered a pageant, so I'm also Elite Michigan North America. And I'm happy to be here today to talk about all the things that we want to talk about as women.
Hi, I'm Alka Srivastava. I am a VP and Treasurer of DIWA, Detroit Indian Women's Association, a nonprofit organization which Savita mentioned. I currently work at GE, I am in IT, I'm also an entrepreneur too. I have multiple hobbies, which in turn became as my passion. All my passion became a hobby, and in turn I'm also a small business owner. My business name is AS Gifts and Decor. So passion had made me open a small business. I'm a mother of three, all adults. So I have tons of time to work for the community and contribute. So thank you.
I'm so happy to be interviewing you guys, and let's get started on these questions. As women of color in leadership positions, what were some adversities you faced in the fields you were in? And describe a time you felt liberated. Anyone can go.
I can start. So prior to my owning a spa, I was in the business world, in the corporate world. I was a senior vice president of product development. And as a woman of color, I feel like I was the only one that was in my culture. I was there. I always felt left out in many things because I didn't understand what was going on. I'm also an immigrant from India, so I felt like I was always left behind. And then when in my uh, role as a senior vice president, I led a lot of projects. So within those projects, when I was winning, I felt liberated in that way because I was able to prove myself instead of just saying that, give me space or give me promotions. It was more about the work that I did. It was nothing to do with my color, my background, or anything like that. So I always try to just do the work. So I always believe in actions speak louder than words. So that I just carried it through. And when I got promoted as a senior vice president for product development, I felt like I accomplished that goal that I was after. So kind of felt liberated there. My other liberation was opening up my own, with my sister-in-law. I feel very liberated there too because it was something that I never thought I would do, but I ended up doing.
That's great.
I guess I can jump in and go next. I feel like I've had many experiences, unfortunately, where I've definitely faced adversity. Prior to becoming a communications director, I worked in the field of education. I was a teacher for 7 years. Then I also worked in news. So not so much in teaching, but I can definitely say like in other fields, especially moving into communications. And since I'm trying to moving up into more leadership roles, you find that, there might not be a lot of people that look like you, especially, when you're on regional teams and you're like the only one in a comm space, with a voice of, let's say, color, right? Or a Black woman's voice, the only representation on these large, global teams or regional teams, that it's a lot. And, nowadays, I think, with George Floyd and a lot of people having more awareness, I know that from my 9 to 5 job, there, which is at the American Heart Association, they have a big, we really spend a lot of time on diversity, equity, and inclusion and discussing those things and discussing how microaggressions are transferring into the workplace and how that has impacted us. And so I think having those conversations has definitely helped. And it's why I choose to work for kind of a more progressive type of company or nonprofit organization. But as it relates to liberation, I really don't seek that from my job. I find my liberation from my hobbies, from those outside things. It's why I started the Ebony Heritage Collection, because I wanted to see, like I have children. I have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old. And, when I go into the stores, I wasn't seeing for a long time a lot of educational things, just celebrating our culture and celebrating, like I celebrate Kwanzaa, celebrating all of these things that, make up our culture and our heritage. And I want to normalize it. I don't want it to be like, oh, look, it's Black History Month. Let's put out this stuff. And so I find liberation through expressing myself through those designs that I make. I make wall tapestries and blankets that are all designed to be educational and celebrate, again, our culture. So that's how I find my liberation, also through volunteer activities. I'm a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So through my community service projects and just, doing those things where I get to share my gifts outside of work, I think is where I really do find my liberation.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I can also add, same as Ebony, that during all the projects which I have done or helped within the organization, or throughout my career also, or throughout my personal community project, I can say that all the project made me become a better person, and I am motivating people. And when you are doing work and showing that people, you cannot just lead people with just telling them what to do, but you have to make sure that you are doing what you are talking, you are doing also. So within the organization, we have so many different subcommittees. um, for all those committees, we have to motivate people, because otherwise after one project they are done. They're like, oh, I have done community work where it is a volunteer work, and when people are not getting any money, or you are not accountable for something, that's where mostly I feel like that motivation, inspiration, all these work goes towards those. So I feel liberated doing those community projects through my all the hobbies which I have, gardening which became farming, try to donate, so people come and harvest with us, they feel good. So doing some work towards the community, I feel like motivating people and helping through the all the projects through my hobbies, I can say that it is liberation for me.
That's wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Our next question is, what moves you forward and keeps you persevering in these moments?
I think for me, uh, what makes me move forward is just the end goal. Is just keep moving, is to empower myself and empower the people around me. When you are an entrepreneur, you're also employing a few people. And when I see them and I see how I can motivate them, it motivates me to keep moving forward. When we run a nonprofit with the Detroit Indian Women Association, when we see the results, when we see those, those action items come to life, like we just did Indian Fashion Week, we donated to autism. And the smile on that face for that little girl to walk on that stage makes me want to keep doing what I do. And when I in my work area, same things. When I see a client see results in something that I have done, and they're like, oh my God, my skin looks so great, and thanks to you. So I feel like, oh my God, no matter what goes on, everyday hustle happens, everyday stress happens, things don't go the way you want to. But when you have those little trinkets of motivation around you, who people motivate you with, is what makes me want to keep going and keep doing the things that I want to do to empower the people around me.
I love that. Sorry, my mic was on mute. If anyone would like to go next, I am here, patiently waiting.
Oh no, I can go. I see there's the sunlight is really popping today. I'm like, wow. Okay. So what keeps me motivated, honestly, is that I really, appreciate, I'm so grateful for this life. I won't say that I've had I've had a really nice life that I'm happy to say I've had, but I've experienced things which really have me grateful for how far I've come. I'll put it like that. And so, there's not a day that goes by where I'm not grateful, even when there are days where, of course I fall short. Like, I'm still motivated because I know there's so much life to live. And, we've all went through a pandemic. I know in my own world, I've lost people, that were close to me, not family, but I've lost still people, connected to the pandemic. And so it's just given me a new, again, appreciation, that I'm here. And that's really what keeps me motivated, doing the work for those that can't do the work, right? It's why I work for the American Heart Association. I want to help those, when I'm doing or planning these big events, I know that there's people that wish they could take part in these walks, that wish they could take part in all of these events, and they're not able to. So, I just try to live my life to its fullest, the best way I know how, and keep a positive mind. And that's what keeps me motivated, that I know there's still so much work that I have to do. So.
Yeah, same thing. I can add a little bit more through the hobbies. When example I can give you through the COVID time. The motivation was to make the mask, but not that many people know how to sew. So that challenge came and we took the challenge. We learned through YouTube. We've donated almost 5,000 masks plus masks. So whenever you see the end result, end goal, and you are helping people, that also motivates you to keep on going. So same thing when I grow vegetable. It is a hard work. It's not easy. I cannot say it's easy. But when we are donating, so the tomatoes or vegetables which we are growing, and the people who are helping us through harvest, nobody likes to plant them. Hard work, no. Harvesting is good. But yes, the end result is when you are helping the food pantry, when the food goes and helps other, that's what keeps you motivated. So all the jewelry which I'm wearing, we do put towards the sale, and then we help some cancer patients or cancer survivors. So all those motivation, we I can see the smile in my face that all that motivates us, the end result.
I love that. The next question is one of my favorite questions that I love to ask because everyone is just like, oh man, I really need to think on this. What age was the most impactful and influential part of your upbringing? And if you could tell your younger self that was that age one thing, what would it be?
I can go.
Yes, I love it.
Okay. So I think about this now because I just celebrated a birthday, which, brings about reflection, right? So I would say that the most impactful time in my life was definitely, I'm not going to say specific age, but like high school. I would say like junior, senior year. for two reasons. I was very influenced by the job I had at that time. I was a camp counselor at the Southfield Civic Center. So I was working with kids, which kind of, and was a big, I think, factor in me pursuing education, right, for many years. But also during that time, I was very much engaged in like pop culture, like music videos, like music videos are really big. I actually miss them greatly, but it's fine. But music videos, I was a part of the 106 in Park, after school. And then I was also part of like Laguna Beach, the Hills. And so I think at that age, it was shaped for me that I knew I wanted a certain particular probably lifestyle, which is why I always encourage people like find, what brings you money, but also something that you love to do. Because for me, I was that generation that we wanted, the job that was meaningful, but we also wanted, some financial stability. We started having those conversations about credit and things. So I think I was a part of all of that too. And so that's where I would say a lot of my influences come from. I'm a big person that believes in following your passion, but also finding a way to, make that lucrative for yourself, especially as a woman. I got married a little later on in life. And so I was single, living on my own and having to really provide for myself. And so I think that equips you with certain skills, but that was the stage that I was most inspired in. It's also the stage that I think, before the bills and the real responsibilities set in, I was very much able to be creative, right? And so, yes, I hope that makes sense.
I can go next. I think for me, it was when I got my first job. When I won't tell you what age that was, but when I got my first job, that actually was paying money. So I thought that was the coolest thing. As I mentioned, I was an immigrant trying to make it, being at 12 and a half, not knowing any English. So I was just, trying to just fit in. And, my parents helped me to go to college. I went to Oakland University. And once I graduated, I was just like, okay, I finally gone through that, the university I was the first one in my family to go to college. So, and then now I was like the first one to get a real job in the corporate world. So I felt like that was my way of going, oh my gosh, I made it, I can do this, So my first job was, I was a buyer at Winkleman's. I think everybody who are my age probably know Winkleman's was a department store. So yes, that was my turnaround. I felt like I have done something, I've accomplished something, and I am where I want to be, going forward. So that's where I felt like I was, that was my age of influence.
Okay, so for me, my mom is the one person whom I always look upon to. I can say my influential one when I started, I got a big challenge, especially used to organize a camp, which is before me, it used to not even host more than 50 people. And somebody challenged me. And the first year I had 250 people. So it's almost 5 times doubled. And then the challenge was that bringing all these people for 3 days camp, it's going to be too much. People will be fighting, arguing. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what I am going through. But you cannot believe it was throughout 20 years before COVID hit. Every year was successful. The minute I opened the registration, so the biggest influential was whenever somebody gives me challenge, I try to I try to make sure that the execution part is successful. So which I delivered it for almost 20 years, where people are saying, oh, it will never, you cannot even hit that one. So I think when it's a motivation also, and you take the challenge in a positive way and move forward. There will be people who will be bringing you down, but you just take the good thing from that and just move forward.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I'm taking all of this new information in, as a 20-year-old. I'm like, I need all the advice, all the mentorship I can get. When connecting with others and building relationships in the field you guys are in, what do you look for in these relationships?
I can go for my um, work relationship, I can say. If you are moving towards up the ladder, being a boss, yes. Being a leader, I can say yes. You can be a leader, a boss, but not a leader, because you have to motivate, empower, and respect your people. So the biggest quality which a leader should have, not to for themselves, but for the team. So it's the biggest relationship you can build, is to bring your team up and work as a team builder, and you will be a very successful leader, because the productivity first of all will go up, because you are supporting each other. So the more support you get, the boss, yes, people will work for you because they need a paycheck, so they will work for you, for the company, but they will not be happy. They will have some health issue, they will make excuses, they will do all kind of excuses not to be, because they're not happy. So just to take the whole team together and listen to them and communicate with them and understand that things comes up, and then you have to be flexible. So that is my experience, that be a, not a boss, but be a leader, and incorporate, build relationship with your team. That was my mine. When you, anybody can go forward.
I think for me, when building a relationship, I think it's communication. I'm looking for people who are able to communicate with me. It could be anything. It could be a communication, meaning that they don't, they're not having a good day. So being able to communicate. And the other thing I look for is support, supporting one another. Those relationship, when I'm down, they can support me, or when they're down, I can support them. So I feel like in a relationship, it is a give and take. And I'm looking for people who are able to communicate clearly, and and feel confident, to that, confidentiality, not that they're confident, but that they can trust me. So I feel like trust, communication, and support are the three things in building relationship, because I know a lot of times, especially in women, trust is a very hard thing to do, trusting one another, and supporting one another, and communicating, even when the things are good and things are bad, celebrating, and even when their things are not good, crying out, and doing all those things together. So that's what I'm looking for in a building relationships.
Yeah, for me, working in communications, I feel like my whole career, that's what it's about, right? Like I have to have and maintain good relationships. So my advice, especially for younger people, would be, don't underestimate your past experience. And so what I mean by that is that you never know when that experience might be that relationship you might need in the future. I can't tell you how many times, like my people I met 10 years ago, even that I've worked with, that I might reconnect with because I'm now in a nonprofit space. I work with top companies, all of these things that I encounter again. And they can still speak highly of my reputation or of the kind of work that I did. And so you just know that your reputation does precede you, especially if you decide to stay in a community like Michigan, or, a place where everybody knows everyone else. It's like a little version of Cheers, right? So I think it's very important, to one, keep your reputation in mind, right? Always be mindful of the work that you're doing and what you're putting out there in the moment. And then in the future, I'm a big person in terms of consistency and watering those relationships. I send an email. I even block out time on my calendar to catch up with people, like just to give like those little touch points, even if it's like, oh, hey, I haven't seen how this person is doing. Let me go check in with them. Let me see what they've posted on social. Maybe I can shoot them a compliment. depending on who it is. So being very intentional about those relationships and authentic about them. I've been in this business long enough where I can tell the difference between a person who just wants a favor, and that's the only time I hear from them, and someone who is really going to be there to support me, and likewise, where it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And so I think that comes from being consistent, not just reaching out when you need something, and really just watering and being consistent about, reaching out to people and letting them know that you're there and that you see them and that you support them in the work they're consistently doing.
I love that. Thank you. So this is our last question, and then I will be introducing or talking about an event. But our last question is, how would you describe a sustainable community? I come up with these questions myself, ladies.
When you think about a sustainable community, it is community that can thrive themselves, right? They can, grow the vegetables and sell the vegetables, grow whatever they are wanting to put out. For a sustainable community, again, I think it's what we've been all talking about throughout this podcast is building relationship, building that trust, supporting one another, and being able to respect also one another's who they are. As women of color, we all feel like we need to make sure that our voices are heard. And I feel like being sustainable community, all of that needs to kind of jive together. They need to kind of work together to make it to be sustainable. So helping one another, thinking about how are we really treating the environment overall as a community? How are we treating each other, not just the community, but or the environment, but one another. So in order to be a sustainable, it's such a big question to have to be sustainable. It's really respecting, one another, respecting the environment, and doing the work in order to make, the community thrive on its own. Just like right now, in Michigan, where, electricity, electric cars are being produced. And again, because there is something happened, right? The oil prices went up. So it's like all those things happen, it makes us think and makes us want to do things that are going to be good for the environment, good for the community, so that we're not relying on other things other than ourselves. So I feel like it goes back to, again, thinking that you're not just a small thing. You can make a big impact in the world by just the little things that you do. So that's why I feel like, sustainable community can happen.
For me, when I think of, a sustainable community, I also think of a community like the foundational principles, right? Like that you're like clothed, fed, like your basic needs are met. And that's not like met in like just in general, right? So when I think of, creating a society where we do have a sustainable, situation, I think that it comes down to, us as people, first of all, within our real communities right now, understanding that we shouldn't be struggling with certain things, right? And that if we aren't struggling, but then the person that lives just because they're in another city or another zip code, like that they're living a completely different experience than I am, like we need to fix those basic fundamentals, right? I think that there's enough for everyone. I am one of those people that believes in abundance. Like we already live in abundance. It's just that greedy people oftentimes are handling things. And but I think we all have to decide as a community and as a group of people all over, no matter where you are, that, no one should be struggling for basic needs. And then once we all decide that it's not okay that a life in this zip code looks very different from this zip code just because of where this person decided to live, that shouldn't happen, that schools shouldn't be this unequal, and that all these inequalities shouldn't be happening. So I think it's a matter of people being like real with themselves, addressing like the real foundational issues, which oftentimes are, economically driven and racially driven. And then once we just, understand that, then we can move from a place where we're really trying to improve those things and into a more sustainable way to live. That's at least my advice.
Yeah, just to add upon, yes, sustainable, empower each other, believe in each other, respect everyone, and just same thing like relationship building is very important. So everybody should be able to talk to each other and communicate mental awareness, all kind of awareness. We should talk all those also, and then that's how all these issues we will address. I know we are almost to the end of the hour, half hour.
Yes, we are. So I wanted to talk about Detroit Indian Women's Association is pleased to present a World Music fundraiser event by joining hands with Shanti World Music to benefit victims of abuse. This fabulous variety of musicians include music performances by well-known music artists like Arya Topizan, who is Armenian, Zhao Dong Wei, who is Chinese, Sean Blackman, American Fusion, Obi Sakari, Latin Jazz, Mike List, World Rhythms, Michael Shriman, also World Rhythms, Christopher Freeman, who is Indian, and Lisa Montez from Flamenco. A cappella and world folk dancers are also invited to perform. This is Saturday, November 6th from 3 to 8 p.m. Music of the World. I'm so happy that I was able to interview you guys. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to give me this ability to be able to listen to these meaningful conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Naomi.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you,
great
Ebony.
day.